Forward thinking.
This is Six Figure Mindset. This is a show that showcases top black and brown talent in the corporate world.
Hi guys, I'm Anthony Francis, Senior Manager at Lloyd Bank Group.
Hi Anthony.
Hello, how are you?
Excellent. Thanks very much for gracing us with your presence.
No problem.
Pleasure to have you. So today, just wanted to get to know you more, find out exactly, what you've been up to.
Sure.
So what do you do today?
So today I am a Senior Manager at Lloyd Bank Group, and I work specifically in the Group Transformation Division, so typically the IT division, basically. And I support one of our executives, so help him with his sort of strategic direction within the area that I work on. He's quite technical, so it's good for me to be closer to him. And it could also be just different things, working different senior stakeholders to make sure that we're kind of doing the right things for our customers, for our colleagues, and also making sure that our strategic direction is heading in the right way, I guess, and we're aligned to that.
And do you focus on, is it like the commercial side of Lloyd's, or is it the corporate, or is it investment? What side do you work?
So in the technology division, it serves all of the bank. So we serve the whole bank, yeah. So the area that I work in, I kind of work on a platform. So I work on the technology that's kind of services the whole of the bank. Other areas within the technology division do focus specifically on different areas. But previously I was in the retail area. So we looked after the retail customers and the technology there. But yeah, now I just kind of a bit more of a holistic view, I think.
Excellent. So, where did it all start? Tell us about your upbringing. Where were you raised? Because I can hear your accent. It doesn't sound like you're from London.
No, we sound different, right? So I'm from Birmingham originally. I say Birmingham actually. It's closer to Dudley, but then everyone always tries to say the word Dudley.
If you said Dudley, we'll put it up on the map so guys you can see at home where Dudley is on the map. But yeah, cool. So how far is that? North of Birmingham or?
It's south of Birmingham, 9 miles south of Birmingham, basically. But I just prefer to say, but everyone knows where Birmingham is, right?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but you grew up in Birmingham, in Dudley. So what was school like for you?
Yeah, school was all right, actually. I think I was probably a bit of a mischievous kid, I just liked to play up a little bit, but not too much so it got me in too much trouble, so it's just kind of like on the fine line. Primary school, all fine. Secondary school, again, all fine, really, I think. As there wasn't really many black kids or brown kids actually at the schools that I went to. So I think one of the things that it tries to make you do is just kind of fit in, you just kind of want to settle in, not be too much out front, not to be too much in the back. And I'd say that I probably coasted through schools, really.
So what was secondary school like? So for example, in Dudley, is it predominantly, would you say, white area?
Yeah, mostly.
So did you go to private school, public school?
Public school.
And what was your grades like, education-wise? How did you do for GCSE?
I think it's a good question. God, it feels like a long time ago now, right? I think I left with something like 5 Bs and 8 Cs, or the equivalent to, because I think when the IT classes to GCSEs type thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so very average, I would say. So yeah, and then I went to college.
In Dudley, or did you go to?
Yeah, in Dudley as well. In Dudley. And I think I chose IT, English, and psychology. I feel like everyone chooses psychology when they go to college, but I didn't really enjoy it, and I didn't do very well either. And I was like, oh, for God's sake! And then I remember towards the end of the first year, I applied for a job because I knew I was going to mess up. I applied for a job in an office admin, I think it was. And I didn't get it, and I was like, for God's sake. So then I applied to do just IT, because the one thing that I did do well in my AS levels was computing. Right. So I thought, obviously I enjoy that, so why not I just focus on that and do something I enjoy, because I can't get a job as office admin. Yeah. So that's what I did. I did a national diploma in IT. Right. And I did really well. Like, I got the top grades, so 360 UCAS points, all that jazz. I was a student ambassador and all that, but I think that's when I understood, if you choose something that you enjoy, actually you'll do well at it, whereas previously I thought I just chose these because I thought that's what I should do, that's what good looks like from the outside, whereas actually when I chose something that I enjoyed doing, well,
Blew it out of the
you
park.
know, yeah, exactly. So
So it's quite powerful because you said earlier on, because you were one of the few people that was non-white, you was trying to fit in, and obviously out of, I guess, call it maybe nearly a decade of trying to fit in, there was this point in your life where you realised I can just keep fitting in and just tick the boxes and say I went to college, but then you met because I'm thinking that's a very mature decision to make, to say, okay, I'm not going to do the rest of the AS levels and A levels to get into uni. I'm just going to focus on what I really like.
Yeah.
What was your parents like in that decision making? Are they supportive? Were they like, can you just go and do what you're supposed to do, please?
yeah, do you know what? My parents are. With me, I have other siblings as well, but so like they've always just been, we just do what's right for us to do, and they'll be supportive of that. And I think if they think something is a silly decision or, you know, something stupid, they would tell us. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, each of us are empowered to make our own decisions really, and it's kind of, that was the one. And I think if I'd got the office job, they would have been supportive of that. If I'd continued to the second year of my A levels, they would have been supportive of that. But I think I approach everything quite, you know, with my head screwed on type thing. So when I'm talking to them about something that I'm about to do, then they can really understand why I'm going to do that.
So do you spend time thinking about decisions, like even back then, like sitting down with yourself alone with your own thoughts and saying, okay, if I go down this path, this is what it could look like, or how did you do
Yeah,
that?
100%. I'm a very logical person, and I'm
Wow.
like, yeah.
So that's very mature though for a 17-year-old.
It is. It is quite a mature way of thinking. Yeah, but I think I've been mature for a long time. You know, I don't know why.
You
Really,
was born
but,
an adult.
yeah, basically, all boring. Yeah, I've just been mature. I just have my head. You know, there's a framework. You got your head screwed on or whatever. Just something about it. But yeah. So yeah, I don't. And it's even now actually, because I have nephews and nieces and stuff, and it's kind of my advice to them is just to do what they enjoy, because that, you know, it's kind of worked for me back then. I think that was a turning moment for me in my way of thinking, really. So yeah.
So you got the results, so that qualified you to go to university.
Yeah.
So where did you go?
It's funny actually, because I applied to go to Queen's University in Belfast, and
Why Belfast?
do you know what?
You know, it's like one cold
So-
place to another cold place.
Do you know what it is? Right, it sounds so stupid, right? But I watched Hollyoaks, right? I know. And on Hollyoaks, someone was going to university in Belfast, and I thought, that's alright, yeah.
This is like a legendary.
It's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke. And then I applied for Belfast, Aberystwyth, and then Staffordshire University, which is close, not too far from Birmingham. We'll just sort of throw that in for good measure. My mom did not want me to go to Queen's, right? I think she'd just seen. I think she just remembers all bad stuff, like, you know, from that type of thing. So.
Oh, she's from there?
No, she's not. But you know, like in the media and stuff, and you just hear this, and you know, like from old time.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
she's just not caught up with, like, you know, things are all right now. And I spent all this time convincing her to let me go. And when she said yeah, I was like, no, I'm not going to go now. You know, I was like, so I didn't. So I ended up going to Staffordshire University actually.
Right.
And
What did you study?
I studied forensic computing.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started off studying computer science, and then in the first year you get to choose a module, or a few modules, I guess, and one of them was computer forensics. And then similar, I guess, to my computing at at college, I liked the forensics module. So I think in the first 2 months you could change your course if you wanted to, because it wasn't too misaligned. So I actually switched on to the forensic computing degree to that one, because I thought I'd enjoy it a little bit more.
And did you?
Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
And how did it go in terms of finishing, like,
Yeah, so I got a 2-1. I got a 2-1, which I'm proud of. My two best friends from uni, they both got firsts. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think university again was. So the way Staffordshire University was back then, they had 2 campuses, and one was for, I would say, like a normal university, and the other one was computing, so it's just full of nerds, really.
Wow.
No offence to any people that study computing. But it's a special kind of university, I would say. Unfortunately, that campus is closed now, actually, and they've kind of merged it all together. But yeah, it was great. It's quite a close-knit set of people because you kind of knew a lot of people who went out and who was there. And it was fun, and I think it was really good. I think that's probably where I first started to learn about leaning on the people around you to support you in some of the stuff that you do, because the two friends that I talk about, Michael and Alex, who were down actually, they don't live, one lives in London, but they were here not too long ago. We actually went to Duck and Waffle, which is not too far from where we are now. But to lean on them for a little bit of support because they were really good at mathematics.
Right.
And when we was doing the math modules, sometimes I would struggle a little bit with some of that. So that's probably where I first learned, actually, if you lean on these for support, they can help you in one place and you help them. And then also I worked as a waiter throughout all of university.
So did you pay your way through university?
So yeah, I had a student loan for obviously like tuition fees, but then everything else, yeah, was just me going to.
Again,
to
another
work.
mature decision.
Yeah, but it's also one of the things that you had to do because I know, like, my parents wouldn't have been able to afford that, you know. So actually, that's just something I had to do. And if I worked on it one evening, Saturday and Sunday, which I then in my final year I changed to just a Saturday. And also as a waiter, I worked in the Franklin Benny's, right, but it's in quite a nice location, so everyone tipped you quite well. So it's quite, you know, like you go there, it's all right. And yeah, whereas my two other friends, Michael and Alex, they didn't work actually. But I did an internship, an unpaid internship.
When was that? What year was that?
It would have been in my second year, so I know I'm darting around a bit here.
No, it's fine, I'm with you.
So it was a sandwich course. So I did a placement year, so I did a paid placement at TNT, the postal people.
Okay.
I did it in their IT support department, which was really fun actually. And it was my first time working, say, you could probably say a corporate type organisation, in a head office in Coventry. But one of the things I was just aware of is that I studied forensic computing and I've not got any forensic computing experience. So whilst I was sat at my desk actually, like, I'm trying to help people with their IT, I emailed a lot of computer forensic companies to try and get an internship over that summer. So then a few came back to me, and then the one that I sort of got and chose is called Fulcrum Data Forensics. It's based in Surrey, in Leatherhead. And I remember actually, I sorted out the accommodation and everything without even going there. It's a bit weird actually. I was driving down in my Fiat Punto and I was thinking, God knows what I'm letting myself into. But actually it was all good. And it was a really good experience, you know. And it probably taught me that I didn't want to be trapped in a room doing computer forensics, to be honest.
So what is computer forensics for those people who have no idea?
Yeah, so computer forensics is, it could be, I was just about to say, a wife thinks his husband's cheating on her, she's got his phone, you know, brings it in. You know, that could be the case. It could be that you've lost a memory stick, you kind of lost all the data, you want to recover it and you've got not the software to do that. And it could be, for example, we worked a lot with trading standards then, and they wanted to prove that certain laptops, certain computer devices had put certain listings on eBay and different things to prove that there was links. It's all that type of stuff, really. So it's really interesting in that sense.
They said it's lab-based, not people.
Yeah, for me it was lab-based. I think there are aspects which is, say, consulting, so you could become a consultant within that area. But the particular experience I had, a lot of it was lab-based. You kind of go out, get the stuff, talk to people, but then you're in there, you're kind of extracting the data, extracting whatever you need to extract, looking at it, sifting through, you know, so it's a lot of that. And I think for me, I really like people. I like to work with people, talk to people, get to know people. And I just thought I probably wouldn't get that in that role. But I still really enjoyed it. And I still really enjoyed my final year of university. You know, it didn't put me off going back and finishing a forensic computing degree.
Cool. So you've done two things that are important on this journey of you being at university. You obviously had a placement year, so you made sure you did the sandwich course. You got your experience in one aspect of things, which kind of helps your decision-making process going forward. You do an internship over the summer, as opposed to going on holiday or living your best life, YOLO. And then you still finish, even though you don't want to go down the road of forensic computing. So then, career choices. Then, how do you decide what career to go into? When do you start applying for jobs? Like in your third year, how did that work?
Yeah, I do know. I just want to quickly say something, because you said that about the summer not going on holiday. In my first year, when I was younger, I always had this dream of, this desire of being a holiday rep, yeah. And in my first year of university, in that summer, I got to be a holiday rep actually. But I always think, because people always say, oh, what did you want to be when you was younger? And I always wanted to just work as a holiday rep, because when I went on holiday, I went to Tunisia, which is actually what I asked for when I was there, because I didn't want to go to Ibiza and just be tired all the time, right? So I thought, so I just went to Tunisia and was tired all the time. But I really love Tunisia as a country, actually. So it was great that I ended up there. But to go to your question in terms of like after university, so I think typically in sort of your third year, everyone is just crazy, like looking for jobs. And I applied for a handful, I would say, and I didn't really know if I wanted to go on a grad scheme, if I didn't want to go on a grad scheme, what it kind of is, because everyone is focused towards that, but then you hear about how competitive they all are and stuff, and you think, okay, I'm not going to bother with that. So for me, I was after working through the different things, I got to two different sort of offers. So the first one was with a smaller company, and the second one was with a larger company that actually worked in computer forensics. It's in that area. But it was more on sort of consultancy side of things. I forget the name of the company, actually escapes me now, but I know at Lloyd's we work with them for some of that stuff. So I chose the smaller company, RMP Enterprise it's called, and they work in sort of graduate recruitment. And I chose it because I thought I had some experience in a larger company, let me go and work in this smaller one. And it was in tech, basically. It was they had a data capture app, and they wanted to evolve it into an online database. And then it was to be a technical account manager. Well, it was a technical account executive role when I first started that. So I thought that sounds a bit of me, really, technology and working with people.
How did that work out?
Yeah, great, absolutely great. I absolutely loved it, and I think I would encourage anyone. I know that I've worked at Lloyd's for like 6 years now, but I would encourage anyone to go and work at a smaller company for a period of time, because there's so much you learn and there's so much you just have to do to get stuff done, right? It's kind of like, and you don't mind because everyone is also stuck in and you're learning from these great personalities. And also at the time, there's probably about 30 people that worked at the company, at all similar ages. The guys that started it, I saw them the other week actually at a wedding, and they're amazing, their story's amazing. They did at university, they did sort of a Dragon's Den type pitch, and Peter, who was there, and he said, if you're serious about this, take it forward and don't get a grad job. They kind of went into their grad jobs and then quit to start it, and now they sold the data capture app for a lot of money. Actually, I wish I had shares in it. And I was like, so I did that. But then whilst I was there and doing really well there, and I was engaging with loads of different graduate recruiters, and as part of that as well, I was just thinking, I saw sort of packages and stuff that are on offer. And I was thinking,
You saw the money.
Yeah, but not just the money though, but more the pension, the protection. And I kept thinking, if this company goes broke tomorrow, where else can I go and say this is what I do? Like, who else is going to want me in their company?
Oh, because obviously, because what you was doing was quite niche.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm working on the data capture, and now I know there's technical account managers out there, but my technical account manager role wasn't too technical in a sense, because I was dealing with people who were non-technical, so it was a bit of a middle and a bridge. And so I was thinking, yeah, it's a bit niche really, so I was just a bit conscious of that in my mind. So I started looking at these different schemes and just paying attention to them, because I was working with obviously all the different graduate recruiters. And I saw one at Lloyd's, and the reason that I liked it is linked to what I've just said actually, is because you became a specialist in IT project management. Right. And the background for that at Lloyd's was basically all our IT project managers getting old, right? So I think one of the advisory groups had said to them, you need to kind of get people in from an IT resilience perspective, otherwise in 5 years' time when everyone leaves, you'll have no one who's knows your systems, etc. So I applied for it, and then you kind of go through the houses, because it's a graduate scheme, right? So there's like 8 different stages or whatever, and this online test and this. I remember sat in my room in Clapham, where I lived at the time, and doing like a video interview or whatever to no one. You're just recording it and answering the questions. So, and then it was, and then I got it, obviously.
Yeah, cool.
Which is good.
So what did that look like? The journey from university goes well, you get the grade you get your grade that you're proud of, which is important. You obviously make, again, mature decisions and say, okay, I'm not going to go down this road, I'm going to go down this road. The Lloyd's one comes up, you get the Lloyd's role. What is the first 2 years? There's 2 years, right? The grad program.
Yeah, so mine was about 18 to 24 months. 18 months I probably spent on it actually. Yeah, so the grad program was good. It was interesting because you just stay in one area, whereas we have another grad program where you rotate around. But I think as a grad, you're probably given opportunities to really to get grips of, you know, and to kind of grasp them, and it's kind of, so that's my first 18 months I probably spent trying to do that. Personally, I feel really fortunate because the team that I was in were really experienced. They were all at Lloyd's longer than I'd been born, you know, so I was like, that was interesting, especially when it comes to talking about what you're doing on a weekend, you know. But they were great, and I got to learn some really good stuff from those guys. My line manager, Caroline, she was a great line manager, probably one of the best I've seen anyone have, really, but she was really on it. So when she's making me do, you know, your development plan, and I'm getting frustrated because I've got to do a development plan and no one else is doing one, actually now I have a development plan and I still have it, and that is what's helping me focus, you know. Wow. When together she's putting like one, at the end of, you know, when they're going to bonus time and they're going into meetings to talk about that, and she used to make you write a little list out or whatever. I still do that now. I have like, you know, reserves to put in, because actually that's really handy to have. End of year, you kind of like, this is just, you know.
We should talk about that, because some people miss out on that, the negotiation part. With that, when we're using stuff for leverage as opposed to going in and saying, I've been here for 5 years, you know, give me a pay rise. Or, you know, how do you go about that?
But you know what? So it's not that I'm negotiating so for me, so what I learned was, or what I understood was, there'll been a time where people get into a room, see, they've worked out what, you know, they think people should get, go into a room, and then they have to say why they think you're getting this or whatever, right? And I remember my head of at the time, Grant, he said, I need people in that room to know who you are. Wow. Because when I say Anthony, I need them to know who Anthony is, because then they'll say, yeah, Anthony deserves X. So that stuck with me. But in terms of my...
So that's like having a sponsor.
Yeah.
So Grant was your sponsor.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, 100% I would say so. Yeah, he was great for me, and he really allowed me to do different things and get involved with stuff like inclusion and diversity, which enabled then other people to know who I am outside of this thing. But I think the point with my line manager was, I would always send her a list, and I still, end of the year now, I still do it, and I've just got a new manager, and he'll be getting a list at the end of this year. And I put operational and like transformative, and in the operational will be stuff from my day job, and in the transformative I list stuff. Yeah, exactly that, yeah. And then transformative stuff will be stuff above and beyond my day job. So at the end of the year, he's not having to think about what I've done. He knows what I've done. And I think for me, that's really worked well. I've always had a really good bonus, actually. I mean, I'll touch wood, I'll probably jinx myself now. Apart from last year, we did not. No, was it this year? We didn't get a bonus because of the pandemic, which we won't get into. But yeah, so I feel like that Grant sort of, he really helped. Grant and Caroline really helped with that way of thinking. So I was really fortunate in those 2 years, I think, to have those around. And then moving on from that, actually, it was Grant who, and when I say his name, actually, let me tell you this, because when I first met him, he's really posh, right? And I have this thing with my accent, because when I was younger, I listened to the radio, and if you come from Birmingham, you're least likely to get a job, apparently, because of your accent, right?
Wow. Like a job in London, you mean?
Just a job. I don't know. Do you know what? It's just on the radio, right? And I was listening to it, and I was like, and it always stuck with me. Wow. And I remember, so it made me really conscious of my accent, actually. And when I met Grant, he was so posh, you know, like proper posh, and yeah. I thought to myself, oh God, but actually he's really nice. It's really nice, and he's really switched on. And he had this thing about planning your own, for the team, planning your own destiny before someone else plans it for you, right? Because you go through restructures, etc. And as part of what he was doing around some transformation stuff, he allowed me to go and work on a transformation program. So when I said I work in group transformation now, it used to be group IT, and then we all changed it and we kind of became a digital focused sort of bank. And again, that was designed in the organisation, the retail TD, Retail Transformation Division organisation, which has got about 4,000 people in. So it's working on the team, sort of designing that, working with different consultants, the execs, you know, so that was again, a really good experience. And I think if I didn't have Grant, I wouldn't have had that opportunity, and I probably wouldn't be sat doing the role that I'm doing today. I also know I never want to work on a transformation program again, to be honest.
Why is that?
Just it's a lot, you know. It's very
because when you say so when you're talking about transformation in an organisation that's a 100-plus-year-old bank, we're talking about any decision that's made affects people, systems, processes,
Yeah.
and it's not. And if you now make one change, like it could be changing the, like a front end, like I don't know, an interface. You make one decision about, oh yeah, we don't want to use this color, we want to do this, or we want to move the button here. Someone somewhere that you've not even spoken to for 6 months will say, oh, by the way, we can't have that because it will add an extra process into our end of day process or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's all these little intricacies, right? That's what makes transformation. So
yeah, exactly that. And at the time, our transformation division didn't exist, and it's kind of we wanted to get into such a ways of working where we could work in more an agile way, right? So I feel like lots of companies are obviously on their transformation journey, and that's what we wanted to do. So it was difficult because people didn't know the ways of work. People didn't know what it was like. We want to be in value streams. Well, what's a value stream? We want to do this. Well, what's that? We want to be in feature teams. What's a feature? People didn't. So I think that's what made it difficult, actually. And I think we probably would have wanted to deliver what we delivered sooner in terms of the organisation, but actually because of the different mindsets and challenges there, it took longer. So it was great in terms of learning, and we worked with BCG, so Boston Consultancy Group, on that, and it was great working with them because those guys are really talented as well. So you kind of see, you understand a bit of their game, I guess, and yeah, so it was amazing. But I thought, never again. I say that, but now I'm talking about it, I'm like, actually, it was quite cool, yeah. And I like hard work. I like to be busy, and I was busy, so yeah.
So from your graduate, going from the graduate program 2 years, then you're now doing about 2 years in the transformation, 18 months, 2 years. So how do you now get to the point where you're now senior manager? What was that journey?
So basically, I used so like I said, I did inclusion diversity stuff on the side. That's always stuff that I enjoyed, and I was kind of like, yeah, okay, And as part of the restructure, there's an opportunity for me to go and do that as a day job.
Yeah.
And
I thought there was no technology.
No technology, and that's of it. It's kind of like, okay, so I was like, do you know what though? I could go and do that and see if I enjoy it as a day job, because I was really good at it on the side of desk type activity. So I did that, and then sat there thinking, no, it's probably not from a day job. I was thinking, it's good as side of desk. Get everything I get everything that I want from it as a side of desk activity. When I say side of desk, I just mean like extracurriculum, I guess you could say. And then, so I started looking for a new job, and actually it was then that I did apply for a senior manager role. Then I was working for a lady called Catherine Rutter, who at the time she was the sort of managing director of the contact centres. So it's quite a big space. I went through that interview process again, and I was talking actually about that interview process because I remember many times I thought I was going to drop out along the way, and it's only because I told a friend of mine, Rachel, that I applied for it that I didn't, because I think if I would have dropped out, she would have shouted at me, right? So she was all the way, and I remember thinking, even on the day of my interview, right, I just remember thinking, do you know what, maybe I should just email and say it's not for me.
How many interviews?
I think I had 3 or 4 interviews.
Why was it so?
Because so sometimes I suffer a little bit from imposter syndrome, and because I feel really fortunate to be where I am, type of thing, and I think sometimes I sit back and I think, like, oh God, if I just blagged my way, like, and you just think that, and then so when you think about interviews, you need to go and talk about something like selling it. It just kind of like sometimes gets to me.
How often do you have imposter syndrome? Like, for example, you didn't mention it for university when you went for those 2 jobs.
Do you know? I think it could happen at any point, right?
And
so
did it happen at the first role? What was it called? The first company, the data capture.
OMP Enterprise.
Did it happen there?
A little bit when I went to because you'd be going to say the likes of Deloitte or KPMG, all these massive companies, which now I just see as a company, right? But back then I was like, oh my God, like, I feel like these companies would never recruit me, and here I am acting as a consultant or whatever to these people, and it's kind of like, so you all the time there. And there's always little things that I do remember, like these little things that you just think to yourself, it's just silly now, but I think that's part of growing up and actually understanding and getting the grips of things. I would say in my first job, as in my first role at Lloyd, I probably didn't have imposter syndrome feeling, because as a graduate, so I wasn't there to know everything, I was there to learn. So probably from after that, maybe, because I don't know, but I feel like part of me thinks that everyone is like blagging it, you know, and I'm like, I feel like sometimes because I chat to some people, I'm like, do these people know what they're on about? So just a bit from that. So when I go for a role, or when I'm talking about stuff, or even sometimes you can be in a meeting, you kind of want to talk about anything, but you can be like, you know, but you always have to just tell yourself. So it's just something, and I know that there's loads of, I think actually we've got a talk on it in 2 weeks, actually, just an imposter that someone's doing. So I'm going to tune into that to hear what they say. But I think that's just one of my, you know, things that I do.
So, and then obviously, was it because you were going for a senior manager role?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and there's so few. But I think I said, you know, when we spoke previously on the phone, that there's so few black senior managers at Lloyd. So you kind of apply for a role, and you kind of, you know, it's just lots of different emotions, I guess. But like I say, Rachel, I told her, so I knew that I couldn't drop out. But actually, as part of that, the interesting, I didn't get the job, but they offered me a different job, and it's still working for her, but it was as a manager level rather than senior manager. But the type of, it's kind of like a chief of staff type role.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where I wanted to get as a senior manager. So I thought, yeah, of course I'm going to take that. And I remember I was walking to work actually, and she rang me or she emailed me actually and said, you know, you haven't got the job, but we want you in the team because we've just really been impressed with you throughout the whole process. So I was like, yeah, so I jumped at the opportunity really because that was going to give me the experience that I then needed to step up a level. And I did that. I moved to the retail bank, so out of technology into retail. And I thought the good thing about that was I'd actually get a feel for the bank and how the bank runs. When I'm talking to people, one of the things I say is extend your network and get a feel for the different areas, because the bank, there's like 65,000 people that work there. We've got, you know, lots of different areas. So to get a feel for how the whole organisation works it can only be a good thing, right? So that was interesting in its own sense, because I've just come from the sort of IT world and everyone's sort of chill, to go into a retail bank, which everyone is, well, not chill, you know, like, because it's a bit more corporate, I would say. But Catherine, as you know, she's lovely. I spoke to her just this week actually, but did that. But then after about 12 months in that role,
and was you doing the diversity inclusion stuff with that role?
All the time as a side of desk, all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't.
It wasn't full time. It was just the side of desk.
Oh yeah, it's all just the extra. I get a buzz from that type of thing actually, so I like to just keep it as a hobby, you know. Yeah. But yeah, so after about 12 months in that role, I thought, all right, I've had enough working here now, let's see. And then a role came up, so we have an internal sort of job board, you know, a role came up to go and work for one of the group directors. So there's,
as a senior manager?
No, so as a manager. But all along while you're moving sideways, you get a little bit of a pay rise anyway, right? So it's like, you know.
Oh, so you did sideways,
yeah, sideways,
but then the money was there.
I know. That's a tip that someone gave me actually, Catherine. Okay. Yeah.
So no one knows. So the tip is sometimes it's fine to go sideways as long as.
Yeah, because I think because you're either taking something new or you're doing different skills. It went sideways, and actually it comes, you know, the point you make about the negotiation earlier, because the way it works at Lloyd's is it's not guaranteed. Wow. Yeah, so it's a bit like so that's where it can sometimes get a bit awkward. But do you know what? You just got to kind of just got to go with it. And actually, recently, someone who was sort of helping through a job process, Mahari, he's been at the Lloyd's 16 years and he didn't know that you get a pay rise if you do a side move. Yeah, he didn't know. I was like, Mahari, are you joking? Because he's a manager, he wants a senior manager. And I was like, this role is perfect for him. When I sent it to him, I was like, this role is perfect for you. And he was like, yeah, but I need a pay rise, man, you know? And I was like, yeah, Mahari, but you get your pay rise if you move sideways. He had no idea. Then he negotiated his pay rise and he's loving life. Incredible. You know? Yeah, but that, again, that's a tip that someone gave me. Kath, her name is. She gave me that tip when she joined the first team. When I mentioned that worked in Grant in that team, she gave me that tip. Just like, because she just moved, as a senior manager, she'd been moving around for about 10 years, I think, and just So I moved. So I went to work for the group transformation director, basically Zach at the time it was, who I really admired actually, because Zach had been in the organisation longer than I've been born again. But it was so chill, it was so relaxed, and you're thinking that he's a group director for the entire bank, there's 7 of them or so, you know, it's massive, and he's very relaxed, he doesn't chat much. When we went out for dinner the other week actually, he's left now, the organisation, we went out for dinner and his wife was there, and she's a chatter. So I feel like they make up for it. She's lovely, obviously. But I went to work for him, and then that gave me some really good experience in terms of, I would say that I probably wasn't doing critical stuff, but I got to be part of lots of conversations where they were discussing critical stuff. Yeah, so I was always in the room type thing. And
So when you say critical stuff, as it relates to the whole organisation?
Yeah, that's it. So, there's executive committees from group transformation, but there's also stuff that I have to support Zach with from across the whole organisation. So you get, all this insight of how the organisation works, and you spoke about decision making just in transformation. Actually, you begin to understand from a business perspective if they make decisions about, whatever it may be, whether it's cost, people, I don't know, location, whatever it may be, which is all part of running a business. It just gives you that. It's kind of like going back to university and getting, and Zach's successor, Nick. I was speaking to him. He actually saying that these are roles of like an MBA type thing, because that's basically what you kind of experience you get. So I did my sideways move to come back to technology because I was missing just the subject of technology, right? And then that's when, so my new boss, he reported into my boss as well, and he's joined us like an executive. So he would need someone to help him, right? So I thought, okay, that whoever gets that role in the future, it would be a senior manager role. So why don't I just put my hand up now to help him a little bit as he settles into the organisation, because I can see your face, right? Yeah.
So you got to do
Yeah.
That's the way you got to do it.
Yeah.
You have to seize the opportunity as opposed to waiting for it to come on the job board.
Exactly. Do you know exactly that? So then Ajaz, his name is, and again, he's a great guy. He's really technical. So I was just helping him out. It's fine. And then it got to the point where I was like, right, he's going to actually need someone else. I'm like, so I prodded that along. And it goes on, everything has to be fair, right? It's not just
Yeah. I know that.
Yeah.
Envelope.
Yeah, it's not just that, not anymore. At least not for me anyway. And yeah, so, and I went through that process. And again, it's an awkward process because I've been sort of supporting this person on and off for a period of time, and then everyone in the exec team sort of knew that I was going for that role, and then you're kind of thinking, God, if I don't get it, I'm going to look like a right idiot, right? And then and then you go through the process, and the people interviewing you are people you know, and I always feel that it's worse when there's someone because you can't hide stuff.
You can't. You have to just keep it to the detail.
Yeah.
You can't really, elaborate.
Exactly that. Exactly, that's the word I was looking for. Because everyone does it, right? So I thought, God, but it all obviously went fine because I got that job. But he did make me wait about a week and a half to find out.
Painful.
Yeah, he went off on holiday and he was meant to make the decision before he went on holiday, but it's like, oh no, after, which I know is very him now, because I get to know him. And then that's how I became a senior manager basically, which again is something that I'm really proud of. Actually, I remember when I found out, I actually cried. Wow. Because I was just so overwhelmed with emotion. Because, like I said, there's so few black senior managers or even black senior managers in the organisation. I think I double checked what was external actually, so I could say it when I spoke to you. But the stat is 0.6%. Well, when we did our report, it's 0.6%.
Of 65,000.
Yeah, exactly. 0%. So it's actually less than 65,000 because it would be the senior managers, right? F plus. I think there's about 10,000 of those. So it'd be 0.6% of those people are black, and it's kind of like, it's shocking. The good news is we've increased it to 0.7% in 12 months. We've got a target to be at 3% by 2025, and I think as part of that, now being a senior manager who is a brown guy, I think it's really important that visible, you're helping others. I spoke about, helping Mahari with his job. There's someone else, Destiny, that I helped with her job. I'm helping white people too, by the way. It's not just that. But I just think actually it's really important that I do that because along my way, I've been fortunate enough to have, someone tell me about the sideways moves. You're going to get this or whatever it may be.
Yeah, you mentioned at least 6 people that have helped you say little nuggets that kind of propelled you to where you were.
100%. So I feel like it's kind of, it's really important with that. And actually, now we have there's some of us that meet on a regular basis that work with some black colleagues, and we get on sort of teams and stuff, and we just chat. And actually, I feel like for me as well, if they weren't there, I'm not sure how much of the going and getting this or going, even just over the last 12 months, right, that I would have done, because it's kind of like the support network you've got going there some time, they're bigging you up, you know. I would say it's really critical for anyone to kind of have that group of people, you know. It's just this week, actually, one is going on maternity leave, and we had a little virtual baby shower for her, you know, but just little things like that, and we could talk about work. It's just, yeah, I'd encourage anyone to do that, really.
So basically, you're doing like the best sales pitch to work for Lloyd's.
Yeah, I know, cool.
Hashtag just say it.
Good.
No, that's good. So from what you're saying, obviously your story is, from what I gather, school, everything kind of worked kind of in your favour, but then the imposter syndrome was still there, irrespective of your success. But then it seems that because early on you were making decisions as opposed to people making decisions for you, I guess it made your navigation through work, which you even use today, probably one of your keys to success. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think just taking it back to doing what you enjoy, you know, because I love my job. I really enjoy it. The technology stuff is really interesting. You know, it's just all, I think it just comes to that. And I think sometimes you just have to step back and just, you know, like judge something from afar and not being amongst it with your busy mind, you know.
Explain that, because I know what you're saying, but I feel like a lot of people don't get the stepping away and making decisions.
I think sometimes when you're doing something, or when there's lots of stuff going on, whether it be about a role, a certain thing you're trying to do, or what you're trying to achieve, sometimes you're in amongst it, right? And you get lost in it. It's like being on a motorway and you're kind of like seeing all the cars moving around, right? Whereas actually, for me, what works is stepping aside and just looking at it and seeing how the puzzle fits together, and seeing, okay, if you move this piece, what's it going to look like if you move this, you know? And I think the richest people in the world are the risky, like the ones who take risks, right? And I think sometimes you have to take a bit of a risk with that, but still in this. I think I've got something on my Facebook or something that's like, live for today, not for tomorrow, but plan for tomorrow, not for today, you know? So I think something like that. It's a bit corny, isn't it? I know.
No, it's excellent. It sounds good. I'm definitely going to take that. I'll be stealing that. But no, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks so much for your time and, you know, being you. We definitely celebrate you, and we look forward to hearing many more, you know, exciting things about your different movements as you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
It's been really good.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent.
Right.
Yeah, man, that was really cool. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Forward thinking.